Hey there, fellow tech enthusiasts. So welcome to this brand new course. We'll be looking at the Windows host file and looking at Windows security. And this is an often overlooked feature, but it's an incredible, powerful method to use this host file. So you might be wondering, what is so special about this host file? It's just a file on the computer. Well, it's like having a secret weapon in your cybersecurity arsenal that can help you stay safe and secure on the wild web. So, where is this host file first of all? You can find it in the Windows directory. So if you go to the C drive, go to the C drive on your computer, enter the Windows directory, System32, drivers, etc. And then you have your hosts file here. So this host file, it can increase your Windows security if you configure it. So over the next videos, we are going to unlock the potential of this host file. We'll dive into the details and explore real-world scenarios, and you'll be using your system like a pro. Now, I know talking about a text file might not seem as glamorous as hacking in the movies, but trust me, this tiny file has the power to make a world of difference in your online security. It's the first line of defense against malicious websites, tracking, and all sorts of malicious activity. So get ready. We're about to embark on a cybersecurity adventure that will empower you to take control of your digital life. By the end of this course, you'll be able to harness the power of the host file on your devices, blocking annoying advertisements, and so on. Whether you're here to beef up your security skills or just curious about what this host file can do, you're in for a treat. We'll break down the complex concepts in easy to understand terms. So fasten your seatbelts, grab a coffee, and let's dive right into it. Welcome back to the course. We'll take a look at the host file. You can find this file in C, Windows, System32, drivers, etc. So we talked about this host file a little before and why it's a crucial tool in your cybersecurity toolbox. Today we'll dive a bit deeper into this file. Understanding how this file works is key to unleashing its full potential. So let's jump right in. The host file, located on your computer, allows you to map websites or host names to internet addresses, IP addresses. It's a simple text file, but it holds a lot of power. By adding entries to this file, you can control how your computer resolves to domain names, website names, redirecting to a specific IP address. So if we open this file in any editor, you can use Notepad or whatever editor you want. You'll see this is the format of the file. So the host file works by reading from top to bottom. So if you have multiple times the same website name, it just picks the top one. The first one it encounters and it ignores the others, duplicates in your file. Now let's talk about the structure of this file. Each line has two columns, the IP address and the host name. So you have an IP address here, an internet address, and the name. And that is for every tree. And this changes this address to the specific computer address. So that can be any address you want, and you can also block it. So you have two possibilities. Either you make your own addresses or replace them, or you can block them. You can also use comments in this host file. So you'll see here a lot of text, but nothing is being used because every line is a comment. You'll see this hashtag in front. So everything is a comment. Nothing is actually being done in this file. Now, before we get too carried away, it's essential to mention that editing the host file requires administrative privilege on your system. So you need to be administrator to change this file. So in the upcoming videos, we'll do some more practical applications of the host file, like blocking advertisements, malicious sites, and other activities. By the end of this course, you'll be a host file maestro, ready to protect your digital realm and shape your online experience like never before. So stick around. The host file has a lot more to offer, and we're just scratching the surface. In the next video, we'll roll up our sleeves and start editing the host file to make some real-world changes. Let's go for a practical demo with a host file. We're going to block a website by redirecting the website to a dead address, to a dead IP address, which is 0.0.0.0. It's an address in the internet that doesn't exist. So let's say we want to block access to a website that's been eating up our time or is driving you crazy. This simple technique can help you take control of your online experience. First, you have to be administrator on the system. So make sure you are administrator, or at least can start Notepad as administrator. So I'm going to type Notepad here, right click, run as administrator. Make sure you have administrator access or this won't work. So on Windows we use text editor like Notepad or whichever editor you want. Then we go to this directory, C: Windows System32 drivers etc. And we just open the host file with Notepad. So click open, file open, go to that directory, and now select all files and select the host file. So that is the host file again. Here we can start to block whatever websites we want. So you'll see there isn't any entry here yet. There's just text here that is shown as comments. You'll see all this hashtag in front, that's just comments, is ignored by the computer. So let's add our first entry. So to block our site, we use 0.0.0.0 address, type a tab, and then the website name. So in this case, we type 2 tabs. For example, we might want to block facebook.com. Then we click File Save. Now, if we start any web browser and try to go to that address, it won't open the website. So we go to open this browser, we type facebook.com, and you'll see it just keeps loading and it doesn't start because we blocked it. And if we go to any other website, you'll see it will open the other website. So here we just blocked facebook.com simply by changing the host file. Now that is the tip of the iceberg, and you can block any website you want. You can make this list as long as you want. Websites that maybe is eating up your time or is too distracting, you can block them using this host file. Just add 0.0.0.0, press tab twice, and then type the website you want to block. For example, example.com. Then if you would visit any of these websites, you'll just get a timeout saying that this page can't be read because we block it, the host file. So that's it. You've successfully blocked a website using the host file. Now keep in mind, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The host file can do a lot more, from blocking advertisements to customizing your local network. We'll explore these advanced techniques and more in the upcoming videos. Thanks for joining me for this practical video, and stay tuned for the next video. So now we know how to block a single website. But usually a website isn't just one site, especially for large websites. There can be multiple sub-websites. You can block those as well. Now you can do that one by one, but it would be very tedious to do that. So instead you can use an advanced technique called wildcard entries. So instead of specifying a single domain, we can just block an entire group of websites using the same pattern. For example, let's say we have 0.0.0 and we want to block example.com. We could do this and it would only block example.com, but it wouldn't block any of the sub sites. Like for example, there's mail.example.com, maybe there's chat.example.com, and so on. So you would have to type every one of them one by one. Now instead of doing that, you can simply do wildcard.example.com and it will block all of the subdomains of example.com. So this is incredibly useful technique for blocking a range of sites with just a single entry. Now over time, this file is going to be larger and larger, this host file. So keeping this file organized and efficient is crucial. So you might use comments to tell what you're blocking. So we can say, write a comment. And there might be a bunch of sites here, and for every group you can add some comments so that a bit more overview Now, you also want to make backups of your host file in case that something happens. Mistakes can happen and a backup can save you from a lot of headaches. Now, you can share your host file with others. For example, if you have one of these host files, you can copy them to other computers, and then those sites are also blocked on the other computers. So, very practical things. Now, besides just blocking websites, there's other things you can do. You can block advertisements, custom domain mappings, and other things. So, of course, it's essential to use this host file wisely and block websites that you really want to block and not that you actually use sometimes, because there's not any time blocking in this case. It's like either blocked or it's not blocked. There's not anything in between. So thanks for joining today and stay tuned for the next video. Welcome back. In this video, we're gonna tackle a common annoyance for many of us: online advertisements or online ads. We're going to show you how you can use the host file to block these ads and enjoy a cleaner, faster browsing experience. Ads have a way of sneaking into every channel of the internet. They can slow down your browsing, they can cost you money if you pay for data, and they can just be downright annoying. So with the host file, you can take power, you can take control. So let's get started with the basics. In the host file, you can block ads in the same way that you block websites. So what we will do to block the ads is use common lists. For example, there are many host lists like Easy List, Annoyance List, and other host files provided by the community. Now these lists are regularly updated and include new advertising domains. So there's a lot of website domains that the only purpose of that is to show you advertisements. So you can block those with the host file. Now, because there's so many, it's a good idea to use someone else's host file for those advertisements, because it's just too many to type yourself. So open the text editor with administrator privileges if you haven't done so, and then open the host file again. So we've covered this in the previous video, so we assume you know your administrator and you have already opened that file. So with the host file open, you could block an ad website by typing 0.0.0 and then, for example, adsserver.com or whatever website the advertisements are coming from. That would block the ads. Now, this is a manual process. However, there's other people making these host files as well. So instead of manually blocking them, you can use someone else's lists. For example, we have this website, github.com/StephenBlack/hosts. And on this website, you can find large lists depending on what you want to block. For example, if we scroll down a bit, you'll see it's blocking lots of stuff, advertisements, malicious software, and so on. And there's lots and lots of domains. So right now there's 150,000 domains just with the purpose of sending you virus and advertisements. So you want to block all of that. Now, depending on what you want, maybe you want to have fake news on your computer, maybe not, but probably you don't want any malicious software on your computer or advertisements. So you can right click here, open a new tab, and that will load the file. Now, that's a very large file, and that will just link all of those malicious websites, the advertisement sites and malicious software sites, and forward them to the black hole of the internet 0.0.0.0. So all of them will be blocked. You'll see this is a really huge file. So typing that by hand would just be a lot of work. And you can block all of that, and you won't see any of that malicious software or have a less chance to be infected by malicious software on your computer. Now these lists are created based on existing lists. So if we scroll down this page, let's scroll up a bit. Okay, you'll see there's all kind of hosts used here. You'll see sketchy domains on list, and there's many people that make their own host file. And so, for example, there's one here that fraud websites, scam websites. So all of those can be blocked just by updating the host file. So what you can do is just copy this whole list. Now, manually selecting that is possible, but it's just quite tedious. You can press Ctrl A, Ctrl C, and then we just paste that large list into Notepad. And make sure we scroll up and remove that top part. Scroll up a bit here, because he's added some of his other stuff that's not really relevant. So remove this, and might remove the other part as well here. Maybe the last update still there. So now we are blocking 150,000 malicious websites. If we save this file, so you see it's not saved yet, but if we save it, now we are blocking 150,000 malicious files that whose only purpose is to send us viruses and advertisements and stuff like that. So by doing this, we have a much smaller chance of getting those on our computer. And you'll see all of them use the same principle. So all of them forward to the 0.0.0 and just block a list of those websites. It's just an enormous list for your host file. And that's how you can, it's one technique you can use to first line of defense to don't get those malware on your computer, to don't get those viruses, just by blocking out a big part of the internet, these 150,000 malicious websites or domains. So thanks for joining and happy ad blocking. So stay tuned for the next videos. On the web you can find many lists to block websites, many different lists for your host file. If you search on github.com and type host file, you can find many people certain lists. For example, this guy is blocking some websites, and you can find different people maintaining their own lists. Now, you can use this site and browse around, but it's not the most easy way to find those lists. You'll see here there's some list and it has a lot of Chinese. So another way to search for those lists is by going to filterlists.com, and here you can find a lot of lists and also some more immediately see a description and what they are blocking. So in this case, this list, for example, is blocking advertisements, cryptocurrency kind of stuff, malicious software, and it has some kind of privacy list, so probably blocking website analytics. If you want to have this list, you would go to the eye symbol here and click on View. So that would open the list of that user. And you'll see you can get a list here. So depending, has a lot of information here. So let's pick another one. So let's say we want to block advertisements, and we can pick this list. Click on the information, view. You'll see we have a large list. That the only purpose of this is to block the advertising. So you can find different lists on this filterlist.com website, but also on GitHub itself. So if you search host file on GitHub, for example, you'll have Stephen Black /host here. There's also other people that maintain these host files, a list of websites to block. However, Stephen Black is a guy who seems to maintain a lot of those lists. And it's the one that we used in the previous video where we blocked 150,000 virus domain or bad website domains. But also be careful with what you add, because instead of blocking sites, maybe they add forwarding sites in. So instead of going to your bank website, maybe they forward it to a fake bank website. So be careful with these third-party host files. But you should be able to block the websites you want. Welcome back. So let's take a look at some common problems. So we'll address some common questions and provide troubleshooting tips for them. Have to help you to navigate the world of host files. It's not uncommon that you might have a few hiccups along the way. So let's tackle them. So you might be not able to edit the host file if you just open it with a notepad, right click, open with Notepad, and you try to save the file. It might show you an error. Make sure that you save it as all files here and click save. And you'll see, okay, it didn't work. It didn't save the file. So what's going on here? Well, you need to open Notepad as administrator, otherwise you can't edit the file. So to open the host file, don't do it directly from here, but go to the start menu, type Notepad, right click, run as administrator, click yes, and now you will be able to open the host file and save it. So if you go to click all files, open the host file, and now you can change the host file. You'll see we can go to file save, and it is saved. So that is a problem of not being administrator. So now, okay, you updated the host file. How do you know that your changes are working? So after making the changes, after you save the host file, you need to confirm that it actually works. And you can do this by closing and opening your web browser. So if you have your web browser opened, close it again and then reopen it. Another way to check if it works is to try to ping the domain from the command prompt. So how does that work? You can go here and type command prompt, press enter, and now you can ping any of the websites. Let's open this file again, see what we blocked. Okay, we blocked facebook.com, so let's see if that works. We shouldn't get any reply because we blocked it in the host file. So if we do get a reply, it means it doesn't work. And you'll see it didn't work. We don't have any reply. And if we pick any other site, for example, google.com, we didn't block that one. You'll see we have a reply. So that is a way that you can verify that your changes are working. So either do it with the web browser directly or use the command prompt and use the ping command. If you don't get any reply, then the website is blocked. Now to remove entries from a file, you can either remove them completely, or if you want to review them later on, you can put the hashtag in front, then it's ignored by the computer, but then you can uncomment it later on if you want to undo that change. So that's a nice little trick. Then now, if you would now save it, it doesn't block facebook.com, but it is not removed from the notes here. So you can add it as a note, and then way you can more easily block and unblock it. Now on Windows, you might have multiple host files. So you might have a host file in this directory, but also in another directory. So that's depending on whether you have a 32-bit or 64-bit changes system, but it should work your way, so it doesn't really matter which one you edit. And that's the main thing. So also you might want to check that you don't have any typos in here. Otherwise it might be something wrong. Maybe you block a website, but for example, if Facebook instead have 3 O's, it wouldn't block the facebook.com website. So you want to make sure that there's no typos in there. So that are the main things that, the main problems that you might face when editing the host file. Welcome back. Let's say you have a home network with one or more computers, maybe a network drive, and so on. Then you can make your life a bit easier. If you ever wish to have a quick way to access your favorite network resources, you can set up custom domain mapping in your host files. So let's start with this custom domain mapping. Let's say you have a local server, printer, or other network device, and you don't want to type those long IP addresses, those long internet addresses. So what you can do is add the address, the IP address of your network device, for example, your file server or printer, inside the host file. So you just add the IP address, whatever it is, and then pick your own website name, for example, myprinter.com. And then whenever you go to myprinter.com, it will bring you to your printer. And it might be a file server on your network. So change it to files.com, and then whenever you go to files.com, it goes to your local network. So this is a nice little trick. You can use your own internal network domain names and map them to whatever devices you want. So that's the basics of this host file, so you can block websites. It can be blocking a whole list of websites, but you can also map your own websites or your own home internal network devices to certain names, which can be really convenient because then you won't have to remember all those domains anymore, especially with today's network where you might have a lot of devices like your TV, multiple printers, maybe you have multiple file servers in your home and perhaps other computers. So then you can just remember them by name instead of by IP address. So thanks for joining today. I hope you're ready to embrace the efficiency of these custom domain mappings and be able to block websites and be a little bit more secure online. Welcome back. In this video, we'll look at a graphical tool to manage the host file, because we can do it in a simple text editor like Notepad, but maybe you feel more comfortable managing the host file with a graphical interface. So one of the tools you can use on Windows is called hostfileeditor.com. You can either install it or load the portable version, and it's a graphical interface where you can have a more easy way to edit it if you prefer to edit in a graphical interface rather than a simple text editor. So to run it, we just download it and run. And then you'll have a graphical interface where you can edit your host file. So it's basically the same, but it's a graphical interface. So let's say we want to block a website. We can then change this file. So let's say we want to block a website, we add 0.0.0.0, and then the website we want to block, which could be any website. Now, to block it, make sure it's checked, and then save it. And then that website is blocked. So you can use this graphical editor to start blocking websites. Now, this is just a maintenance tool, so you can see also some feedback here that this is an invalid host name. But if you prefer to edit in a graphical editor, then you can use something like this, which lets you save, refresh. And that's the basic features it has. Also filter. But yeah, that's the basic idea. From file menu, you can open the text editor and you'll see that it has been updated using that graphical editor. So it's just a simple graphical interface to the same host file. So it's really, if you're not comfortable with editing in such a Notepad file, then you can use a graphical editor like this. What if you're not a Windows user? What if you use Linux? Then this course is still useful to you, even if you don't use the Windows system, but you use a Linux system, because the same principle apply. So in a Windows system, there's a host file that you can use to block websites. You can block advertisements, virus, and a lot of other stuff. Now, that file on a Linux computer is located in the etc directory. So to see that directory, we first change the directory, cd/, then we type cd etc, changes directory to the etc directory, and in this directory you will find the host file. So we can output the host file with the cat command. This will just show the contents. And this file is what we're really going to talk about in this course. This file allows us to block websites, block advertisements, block virus sites, malware sites, and a lot of shady scam sites as well. So it's really a good idea to take control of that host file because it can boost your cybersecurity. So instead of having an empty file like here, we can update this host file and make online browsing a lot more safe, a lot more secure, and a lot more pleasant. So if you're a Linux user, you can change this file. You can do that with any text editor you want, but you have to be the root user, the administrator. Now, in the terminal, you will do that by typing sudo in front. That will run any program as the administrator, and then some text editor, for example, nano, and open the host file. And from here, you can change the host file. Press Ctrl-O to save and Ctrl-X to exit. So the same principles as in the rest of the course applies, but this is how you would do it on a Linux computer. And there you have it, Tech Warriors. Your journey through the host file has come to an end. We've explored the basics, practical applications, some more advanced techniques, security features, and some tricks. Now remember, the host file is your trusty companion for enhancing your online experience, improving your security, but it's just a simple tool, a simple file. It can give you some more control, but it's not the end of security. It doesn't mean that because you have that host file, your computer is now secure. It's just the first line of defense, just like a firewall is a line of defense or any other security features. So whether you're using a Windows, whether you're a Mac, whether you're a Mac user or a Linux enthusiast, the host file is here to serve you. You can block websites that you don't want and even a whole series of websites and have your own like domain firewall on your computer, or even you can put it on your router so that it would be for the whole network. So even though we focused mainly on Windows in this system, the concept applies to any system, any computer system. If you have any questions, ideas, or want to share your host adventures, don't hesitate to give a comment or feedback. I'll be happy to help out if you run into any problems. So thank you for doing this course. It's been a pleasure guiding you through this fascinating world of domain names and the host file. Stay tuned for more courses on cybersecurity, hacking, and other interesting technology stuff. So until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep making the most of your digital world. So long.